How Social Networks Work. This is Pam Rutledge, Part 3. With social media marketing, finding your target audience is key. It will be easier to find them if you understand how connections grow in a social system. Social networks behave in ways that may seem counterintuitive to people who have grown up staring at bell curves. Networks follow a different distribution. As networks grow, a core group emerges. Whether it's bloggers, Twitterers, or YouTubers, a small set will emerge that account for the majority of the traffic or content. This is not a property of psychological forces, elitism, or selling out. It's the power law distribution of network behavior. It's also called the 80-20 rule, the law of the few, and the Pareto principle. This happens in any system where users are free to make choices. The greater the diversity in a network, the more extreme the inequality. In fact, it is the act of choosing that creates the power law distribution. The reason that networks follow a power law distribution is called the preference premium. A bell curve assumes choice is random, but in networks it's not. People, for example, make choices for a number of reasons, including the influence of other people's choices. Groups have a tendency to move toward agreement. The stars that emerge at the top of the distribution are called supernodes. Think Google, Amazon, or Instapundit. And that's why it's important to identify key players in your market so you can take advantage of the network's A-list of connectors to get your message out. In The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell proposed that certain types of people become the supernodes that facilitate the spread of a fad or a message. He calls them mavens, connectors, and salesmen. Paul Gillen calls them the new influencers. And in Groundswell, Charlotte Lee and Josh Bernoff have developed a psychographic profiling based on the power law distribution. These conceptualizations allow us to isolate different audience behaviors and match them to the right social media tools. What we see in social networks is that, unlike traditional mass media, social networks allow people to connect and exchange information many to many rather than one to many. The challenge for marketers is to figure out who you want to reach. You can reach just about anybody. It used to be that access was the scarce resource. Now the scarce resource is your time. Your customers have the same easy access too, you know. This gives customers more choice and more power. They have much higher expectations for service, value, and the quality of the relationship that they have with your business. You cannot just randomly scattershot your social media marketing and be effective. Remember these network properties when you're designing social media strategy. Networks accelerate communication through context and overlapping connections. Social networks are constantly evolving and have threshold properties that result in radical change. Networks are self-organizing and have emergent behaviors that are identifiable and predictable. Weak connectors bridge different networks and facilitate message distribution. Power law distributions means that a few supernodes will emerge as people across a network exhibit preferences. When we harness social media, we need to understand how the structure of a network in any given social media tool affects the relationships between members. The qualitative aspects of these relationships dictate how people communicate and the implicit trust and the strength of the bond in those connections. All of those are essential to achieving successful interactions with your audience. Try this. Identify your personal network to see how proximity, demographics, commonality, and other dynamics influence the information flows in your system. Ask yourself, who are the weak connectors? Where are the supernodes? In what connections do you place the greatest trust? And what other factors do you notice influence the flow of information in your system? Thanks for joining me.